2, 3.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. This is me, Ms. Rhonda B., coming to you from Voices of Mass Discussion. I am here again with two very lovely guests. They're going to share with you what they're excited about. They're doing some things in the community, and you know, often we have been talking about all of the street violence, the misdirection of our young people, who's doing anything about it, what can we do about it. And what I'm finding out, the more we're out here talking about that, is there are an awful lot of groups out there that's reaching out, giving back, and trying to help our youth head in a better direction and to stop all the street violence. So it's really pretty perplexing as to how can we have as many problems as we have, because it's not due to a lack of interest, input, or activity. So we have another group that I ran into a couple of weeks ago. There was a march on, Stop the Violence, trying to get the summer started. And so I have brought them here, and I will explain to them a little bit before they introduce themselves about what it is they do. I think they have an organization called Notarized
Inc.
Notarized Inc.
Correct.
Which they'll explain what that means. Because notarized, you think about notarizing a piece of paper, but I'm sure they have a story. So I'll tell you what we do. This is a Voices of Mass Discussion, so we invite people out to share their story. So the audience for the format for our audience is, who are you? And then you'll tell us what you do. And then the basis is, what is it that you do? But the bottom line is, why should we care? Why should the audience even care about who you are or what it is you do? So they're sort of nervous. This is their first time, and so so that's also once we get started, I explain to them everything will be fine, and they really don't know me. They met me nice, quiet. Seem like I'm quiet. They don't know about my my abruptness, but I am nicely abrupt.
Okay.
So we will start off. I'll start with you. You tell us who you are. You're the individual and your organization. You can let us know who he's here, and then what is it all about.
Okay, my name is Dante Wolf Wilson, CEO of Notarized Inc. Social Club. We non-for-profit on the state level, but soon to be on the federal level. We cater to the community as far as with organizing peace marches, feeding the homeless, clothing the homeless. We go to several nursing homes and have elderly night. We volunteer with the handicap at the Special Olympics. It's whenever we can extend our services.
And how long have you been an organized group?
We've been organized since March of 2012. Yes.
Okay, then who is this well-dressed gentleman with?
This is my co-CEO, Big D.
How you doing? Well, I became part of Notarized Inc. About a year ago. He was doing into the same things that I was basically doing, trying to save our community and our children as well. And I've been doing this since 1987, I want to say. God gave me a gift to gab where I can reach out and talk to people. So basically what we're trying to do is getting the community back involved, taking our streets one street at a time. It's due to a lack of help that we have in our community. We have cities officials that doesn't even live in our community and wants to come out once something happened, but we're actually in the community trying to give back to the community, and it doesn't make sense for a shooting to take place in order to get our officials out there.
Mm-hmm.
They should be coming door to door. We stay in a high crime area, and it's a shooting going on every single day, so they need to make themselves visible, because we're, as two young black men entrepreneurs, we decided that we wanted to stand up and have a change in our community, not just our community, any community that need our help.
Okay. I have a question though. Now, do you think that if the elected officials were more visible, that would make a difference with the crime in the area?
Well, even if you were more visible, you have to actually get involved with these young people. Mm-hmm. Young people have a mind of their own, and most of the time what I found out with my church, these young people, the young men, only want to have an ear to listen to. Mm-hmm. I mean, we constantly blasting them, saying this about them, but we have to actually sit down and talk to these young men, because a lot of them I found out don't even have structures in their house anymore. You know, we have to go back to the basic. It starts at home, and then maybe we can reach out to the churches and then the community as well.
So now, if you started doing this in '87, just from '87 to 2007, you had to have seen a lot of difference and a lot of changes that's been taking place in the community. So what do you think is different?
Well, from when I was coming up, and I'm not going to tell my age, I'm still young, but from 1987, I see that the structure of our community and our black people have just went down. It's like, you know, nowadays we have a black president in office, but to some people that doesn't mean anything. You know, we have been in 400 years of bondage and in slavery, and it's time for us to come out of that, even though we do have a slave mentality. Not only do we have a slave mentality, they're trying to put us back in slavery physically.
But you know what, I know people say that often, but if we had a slave mentality, if that was the only thing that was holding us back as a community, I think that do keep us from progressing collectively.
Correct.
But that, I personally don't feel that's the cause of the crime in the street. Because if it was based on the slave mentality, then we would be more obedient.
Well,
Because the whole purpose of the slave master was for you to be obedient and to do what they say, and they certainly didn't tell you to go out there and start shooting.
right,
people.
but it's just another form of slavery now. I mean, I haven't met, I'm 47 years old, I haven't met no one's my age. No one's my age. We know who have all the boats and the airplanes and bringing this stuff over to our community. It didn't start just now, it happened during the Black Panther movement.
Right.
And, you know, they flooded drugs into our environment. And if you have, what the main thing that we look at now, if you get a black man out of the equation and then let the woman run everything, we gonna go downhill. And that's what they have did. They secluded us into one area as far as the projects. The projects is just what it is, a project. And when the government couldn't
But it
get
seems like
control,
they've told them to have torn down the projects, we have more violence in the
that's
street
why.
than less.
That's why, because it was just what you said. It was a project to keep all of us confined into one place. And once the government couldn't
But let me
do
tell you
that,
something else. Do you know a project with low income, when the mentality is low income and the people behave low income, they call it a project. But a
Correct.
high rise is the same structure.
it's a condo.
So it's a mindset.
Yes,
so
it
it's
is.
not it wasn't the structure, it wasn't the project. Because to me, with the project, then you kept the project-minded people together, so they were still shooting each other. But now when you tore down the project, then you scattered them about, and now they're shooting and killing up and corrupting the minds of those families who tried not to be of that mindset.
Right.
Because the high-rise is the same.
Correct.
The buildings, they're stacked on top of each other, they have an elevator to get up there,
Correct.
but it's the mindset of the people that's in there.
That's correct.
Yes.
That is
So,
correct.
but I'm not saying that you're incorrect, but it's just, to me, it's deeper than that, because I'm also older than you, so I've been here a long time. I've been grown a long time.
Okay.
And one thing that we were taught as children is just because I'm hungry does not justify me taking your meal.
That's correct.
So the things that's happening with our young people, and it just goes deeper than that. And we've given every excuse. We've run out of excuses. So now, obviously, we need answers as how do we get our young people to understand that life has so much more to offer. I'm even of the mindset that, and I'm in education.
Okay.
So I clearly see kids on a daily basis. I see the ones that potentially to be bad. I see the ones that started off bad and parts of society that's helped turn them around. I see kids on a regular basis where the system is part of the problem. I've seen, so you see it all a lot when you're in the school system with those kids on a daily basis. But the thing is that at the end of but we've given every excuse. Okay, there was a whole era of kids that are misbehaving because they don't have a father in the household. Okay, then there's the whole era about, the mother had to work 2 jobs. Then they have a father in the household, but he's abusive. Okay, then we got the drugs over here, but we don't make the boats to bring them over here.
Correct.
All of those external things, and none of that justifies me committing the crime against you.
That is correct.
Because if I wake up today and I don't have anything in my house to eat, as a matter of fact, they're going to evict me. I don't even have a house.
That's
I
right.
don't even have a place to stay. Where does the mindset come from that I can justify within my own consciousness that because I don't have, it's okay to take what you do have?
Well, we have to instill in our young people's head like I talked to a guy yesterday, whatever that we set our mind to as black strong men, because we are the kings and the queens, we are the chosen ones, per the Bible say. Once we set our mind to a goal, I feel that we can accomplish that goal if we have our parents backing us up, if we have our ministers backing us up. And you know, the community, back when we was coming up, it took a community to raise a child. Now they have took that structure away from us. Back in the day, if you did something on the block, I would get chastised by my neighbor and then wait for my dad to get home and get chastised by him. So now if you try to attempt to raise up your child, you have DCFS now. You have the police. So we had a no-win situation with the system. So the system was always supposedly designed to help us, but it's actually worked against us. I mean, I know so many young brothers that have felonies that actually didn't do the crime and they're behind bars now. When they get out of jail, do they have like a recreational center that they can go to, or an employment agency that can promise them jobs? Once they release us from the system, we right back adapt to the environment that we're in. So if you a person that's been in jail all your life and you don't have a program set up for this individual, when he come back to the streets, he's back in the same category where he was from day one. So my question is, my thing is, what can the city do for these young people? We have enough potholes in Chicago alone to, you know, give each and every felony on the block a job. But they don't look at it like that. You know, we living in the last days
and
right
the unions
now.
wouldn't let it happen anyway. So, but that's
Okay. So what can they do for our young people as well as the family?
So I'm thinking, my thought is, where does it start to empower the youth? I think there's two things going on by being in the school system. I think our kids know something that us as elder people don't know, or we're missing the boat. So I think
we missed the boat.
That's what
they're fighting for a reason. I think they're just so young, they don't know what they're rebelling against. But I think there's a reason.
Well,
and then we're so much older and think we know that we don't know we don't know.
Well, we have to get involved once again. I have a teenager and I have a son that's 22. And I'm involved in their life and their curriculum. Just because you are part, they want to say ghetto, they didn't really break down the ghetto. A white person, Chinese, anyone can be lived in the ghetto. They always call us niggas. Niggas is a white, black, Chinese, whatever race it is that act barbaric.
But you know what, back when you started in 87, this is what I'm thinking. In the 80s, those of us, myself included, you know, Mary behind the scenes, all of us, those, except for this young man here, those of us and our parents bought into the notion of the us and the them.
Correct.
That those who did not want to be associated with the barbarics or the project mentality or the Negroes in the street, is if we just only went to school and got a good education.
Well, that's a part of it, you know.
But listen to me, that we would be saved. That's what they told us. That's what the system told us. That's what white America told us. That's what our parents told us. Our parents believed that. And so therefore we had no choice but to believe that. So you fast forward here where we're at today. That turned out to be no more true.
Correct.
Than if you didn't get the education.
That's correct.
There's a lot more to surviving, to being okay, to making it in quote unquote America than whether you went to school to get that formal education.
Correct.
So therefore, so that was our generation. So then when our children came along, your children, we did not instill that same sense of urgency to get that degree, to go to college and let nothing else stop you. There's nothing more important to get to college. Because at this point, we as an adult, even though it wasn't on the conscious level, we now realize that the us and them didn't make any difference, because at the end of the day, they still treat us like that.
Yes.
So therefore, we did not have that same sense of dire, you have to get that education because it's going to make a difference in your life.
Right.
We still believed in education, but we were no longer perpetrating that it's going to make that, it's the end all and the be all. Our parents told us that because that's all they knew, because many of them didn't have the formal education.
That's right.
So they're thinking they're going on these factory jobs in the steel mills and being mistreated and having to deal with the racism. So as they're working these factory jobs, the only thing they're thinking about is I'm going to do what I got to do so that my child can get an education so that they don't have to work this factory job.
That's right, that's right.
But they did not in their wildest dreams think that there would be no jobs. So we went to college, got these formal degrees and all these fancy education, and then there's no jobs.
Correct.
So it's like, what came first, the chicken or egg? Were they better off with these slave-driven jobs, hard-working, but at least they were able to take care of their kids? We came along with our educated self and could barely take care of our kids because there were no jobs.
That's right. That's true.
So it's real, so then your mindset changes, all I'm saying. So if you don't have that same, you're talking to your kids, and then being a black man, I'm sure the conversation with your boys are different than what a mother would be having.
Yes.
Because even though you've made value education, it's important, but you're talking to your child on how to survive.
Well, not only that, like I said, during the time when my father came, they're from Alabama, and they used to pick cotton, and he know what it is not to have education, but he pushed himself that much harder. And the same things that he instilled in me, I'm 47 years old, I never in my life been to the penitentiary, thanks to the raising that I was a part of. I instill in my children's head, even though it seems bleak right now, it seems real glim, but we have to have an education to move forward, period. Even if without an education, we basically don't have a voice. So I urge each...
But I have a education, and I'm here to say we still don't have a voice.
Well, you have your own TV show, so a lot of us would love to, see, I find out every day we fall 100 times a day because a lack of knowledge. If we don't know something, we can't be held accountable for that. No longer should the black man say that I can't be accountable for something that the white man did 400 years ago. It's not the white man's fault that we are the way we are. It's our fault. We have
I'm not going to go that far and say it's not his fault. What I
do
will
that.
agree with you on is it's up to us not to allow it to continue to be our burden.
That's right.
Because we can't say it's not our fault because none of us is wise enough to know the impact that it had.
Correct.
Because you can't tell one race that the Holocaust still haunt them today,
That's
but
right.
tell us that slavery shouldn't haunt us.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the Holocaust was done off these shores, slavery was done on these shores.
That's correct.
And then as you go through life, and even though very few of us will know an American Indian personally, but we know the story.
Yes.
So I'm not gonna go so far and say it's not their fault, but it's our burden.
Yeah, well,
And then our children, but that's a whole bigger picture. Our children are not thinking about the fact that their great ancestor was a slave when they're out there robbing you.
Right.
That is not even, like I said, we've given them every excuse, every reason, every justification, but we've missed the direction. We missed the middle road. Because this here, my favorite person, I never even heard one lyric of his rap song, but I have heard him speak, and he's like my favorite young person speaking to young people. That rap artist Lupe Fiasco or whatever his name is.
Yes, Lupe.
Yeah. So when he said he was down there pushing, they had the little fancy little forum, where the young people could tweet in. They wasn't in the audience, but they were at home or wherever they are, and they were tweeting in while he was on stage up there with Jesse Jackson and them. And to me, he just said the thing that make the most sense, that the elders treat young people like they don't have the right to falter because they should be standing tall and so proud for what all of our ancestors did for them to have the freedom that they now have. And what I just respect and admire about what he says, no matter how true that is, that's just not a burden that they realize they should be carrying.
Right.
So I do think that for some reason we brought a whole generation of young people up on the assumption that they shouldn't have a struggle because of all the struggles that those before us have made. But the reality is that they're struggling with something, and we're not listening to what that is because we're too busy trying to tell them what we think.
Right, that's correct. But it's an artist that I love that he's passed away, Tupac Shakur. Every day that we wake up is a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've been talking, and we haven't put one person into the equation that can help us out of all of this.
That's
and
my
God.
present to you. Oh.
We have got, yes, I love to talk about God in all my conversations.
But the black people would be we would be the most successful. Because who stay on their knees more than us?
That's right, but I have to relate.
I'm a heathen. I don't even go to church.
I have to go to church because I was brought and raised in the church.
So was that. That's why I don't go. Stand up, stand around, touch the ground, say something to your neighbor.
That's Catholic. Baptist. I get tired of going to Catholic churches too.
No, I like going to Catholic. You're in there less time. But go on. Tell
yeah, but I feel that as far as being a church, it's a lot more that these churches can do. Instead of being in the limelight and running for aldermen and senators like that, I don't believe that pastors should even be in the field of politics. If you want to get out here and help these children, let's start a march. The peace march is nice, and it's doing a little for the community. That's giving the community a little hope. But is it stopping anything? No, it's not. We have to meet this head on.
But the thing is, I think one of the reasons, though, and you guys know better than me because you're in the streets, you're in the organization, you talk to many more young people than I do. But the thing is, we keep saying stop what? Because each crime is an individual crime. If it was more organized, then there would be somebody that can eventually figure out how to stop it. But each crime is an individual committing the crime. Correct.
It all ends back up, no jobs. If it was more jobs, then it would be less crime.
So, and that's why I think our politicians come in. We talk to our politicians about everything but that. I don't know if that would solve the problem 100%, but I do think it would make a difference because if nothing else, it'll change your value system within your household. Because a family, when the head of the household doesn't have a job, then they resort to hustling. Whether it's a legal hustle or illegal hustle, but they resort to hustling. And what I'm saying is, I'm not saying whether they're doing something legal or illegal, but when your mindset is changed from working, just developing a nuclear strong family, to being a hustler, you're always on the grind. So when you're always on the grind, what's funny about that? So when you're always grinding, trying to make a living, then the conversation is different with your young person because you're always in survival mode.
Yeah. Well, I can tell a young person, I was that young person before. I was grinding. I grind all my life. You can come from that. You can elevate from that. All you have to do is just put your mind to whatever you want to do. Who would thought 10 years ago that we would have a black president? I never thought in a million days that we would have a black president. Obama is giving young black men a chance to stand up for something that's right. We can make it if we try. We made it from 400 years of slavery. If we put our mindset to things, they have took everything from us. Only thing they couldn't take from us from slavery was those old Dr. Watts songs that brought our ancestors over just one more day.
But young kids do not, see, this is grown people who have this mindset that young kids are not as smart or they don't.
They're smarter.
Right, because young people do not feel that. The whole school system is an adult phenomenon that the children are pawns in. And I just honestly think they just decided they don't want to play that game.
Right.
There's some games they want to play, but this whole who's smarter than who do better on a test, it doesn't interest them. So they're not affected when Ronnie Manuel says we're going to close down a whole bunch of schools because you're not doing well on the test. That doesn't motivate them to go in there and do better on the test. Because they don't care. That's your test. That's grown people business.
Right, but you put a child in a position where they have to make a decision. When Robert Emanuel closed down these schools, he took young kids from a safe environment and scattered them into an environment that they can't even
But that's what I'm saying. So that's where grown people, again, have let these children down. Because a system came into place not designed to do what it's currently doing.
That's correct.
It wasn't designed to test the children so that we can displace the children.
Right.
The whole purpose of it is because in life we're sold a bill of goods. The whole purpose of the test is so that you can hold those who are inside running the schools accountable.
Correct.
So therefore, if I'm holding you accountable, then if I have a school, you have a school, and you have a school, based on my test scores compared to your test scores compared to his test scores in the same community, then now a parent can make a choice as to which school they want to send their child to or you can evaluate why you're doing better than what I'm doing. But they've taken it, you fast forward 20 years later, or 25 years later since the testing been in thing, and then they put their own agenda on it.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to close down these schools because Ron Emanuel said, no proof. But before him, I'm not only going to blame it on him, because before him, what's that guy that's run? Paul Vallis said.
Right.
And then the other guy who Obama went to play basketball with Obama in Washington, D.C., whatever that guy's name is. Because they said, because of the test scores, what's going to be better for you, all you black and brown kids, is if we close these schools because the test scores are low, and put these same kids who did poor on the test and just put you in a different building, like that's going to make the test scores better.
Mm-hmm.
And so my submission is, even if the test scores become better, you haven't changed that mindset of that child.
Correct.
And it is, and so I just think the children know that, and I think as adults and churches, we could do a whole show on what I think about churches and preachers and pastors and the problems we have out here. But I really do think that a lot of problems we have is not the church's fault, but I think they can be resolved if preachers were committed to the calling for real.
That's
more
right.
so than the Cadillac, the nice houses and all that stuff.
Well,
But no, I'm gonna let you believe in your preachers. I'm like, okay.
Well, I look at it like this, you know.
But let me tell you about the school. The preachers, the churches, all of them are in bed with the politicians and the powers that be.
Correct.
Because there is no way a black church, black Southerners, should have sat back and allowed an entire community to be disbanded. Because that's all we know is community. That's all we know is how to band together and get our strength from one another. So we done forgot all of that in the church of how we got to where we are, the little bit we do have. Because at that cotton field, we banded together, and our common ground was getting together on church on Sunday.
Right.
But then we today, it doesn't matter whether your child go to the neighborhood school or as opposed to getting on a bus going across a few schools. So as adults, we have allowed that to happen. So therefore, the children are constantly paying the price, constantly being disconnected. Go on.
No, I'm just listening.
It's your organization. I don't even have an organization. I just got them out.
Well, we just hoping that, Notarized Inc. will be able to help as far as the community. We're doing, like my CEO said, this is one of the best CEOs I ever ran into. It's my brother.
So how do the people know about your organization?
Because we out in the community.
Yeah,
We have clothing drives, food drives. We are so involved in the community.
I know, but everybody's not poor. I mean, all of us is poor in the sense of being poor, but everybody's not so poor where they need food, or let me tell you this, where they need the hand up.
Right.
So what do you do for the hand up, the lift up? Because everybody's not homeless.
That's true.
And the ones who are homeless, I promise you, are fewer of the problems than those kids that have a home.
Yeah.
So what are we doing for the children that young guy who they just arrested, Dominique, who shot that real estate teacher? I promise you that boy lives somewhere and is not in the street.
Yes.
A couple of us now.
Right. But you got to look at the structure of the child.
And that's a man, 23 years old.
To me, he's a child. I'm 47. I'm old enough to be his dad. But at the same rate, we take a 22-year-old, that father is basically just coming out of the prison system, don't care about his family, compared to myself. I instill the things that I got instilled in my son's head, where he would want to do better. Just the area where we stay at. My son doesn't want to come home because he feels unsafe. So I got him away. See, if more parents would take the initiative to listen to their child instead of beat down their child, because every child have a problem. If adults have problems, why can't they? Yeah. Only thing they need is an ear to listen to, but we're caught up in everything else. And if we can just, in my household, I can't say for my CEO or you, but in my household, we ban rap music videos. That's not coming in my house. You giving Satan a doorway straight into your child's life. If Satan can't attack me, who he come after? He come after the tail. So we as black men, we have to be kings and stand up for something. Like I told my CEO, I'd rather stand up for something than die for nothing. If I'm doing my community service out here in the community, making a difference in the community compared back to early 1992 when I was one of those guys selling drugs out here in the streets. I made a difference because I wanted something different, and that was for my child and my wife, you know. So I instill in every young person's mind, we're trying to open up a crisis intervention center through our group. So we got a lot of things going on, and my main thing is, my CEO will tell you that he's the nice one out the group. And I'm the one that hit hard. And like I told him, we got to do something better than, you know, marching in the streets for peace.
But
we got to go to
what?
City Hall.
But
We got to
you
go to
would
the
be
Capitol.
the better one to be able to address it. If you were one time part of the street, selling the drugs,
Yeah.
the reason
I was
why...
part of the problem.
Right, that's like you were
Now
part
I'm part of the
of
solution.
You know, sometimes
And then these mothers, they get these babies and they were using the
Babies
drugs,
having
and the reason why
babies.
these babies, some of them got all these problems in school, then you should be the better voice to be able to say, first of all, what attracted you to the street.
Mhm.
Because see, sometimes we're just not honest. Because what I noticed and what, you know, talking to some of those kids one-on-one, especially the ones who have a tendency to be bad, you
Mm.
know, and when you're in the school, and even though we grew up on 79th Street, but I just was happened to be one of the ones who were more, you know, subtle in the house and stuff like
Laid
that.
back.
Yeah, so I wasn't in the street. But one thing I do know about the street, and I tell these kids this all the time in school, and they always laugh at me. When those kids get ready and want to fight, there's a thrill in the
Yeah.
steal. We don't talk about that. But I always tell those kids, I know which one of you guys actually, parents are from that street, because when you get in the position to fight, when you guys do like me, I know you don't know how to fight.
Yeah.
But when you get that little dance going, you know, that little, and then, you know, all prepared, however it go. Okay,
They not used to, you know, a good clean fight.
Right.
yeah, some of them, I can see, but there's some of them you could tell, okay, this is your environment, because they get that little dance, a whole little dance to fighting. And like I said, some of those kids do like me. You don't know how to fight.
home shuffle.
Yeah, right. And it's cute, though. It's the whole thing about it's cute. It's just today, it doesn't stop there. Because once you get through getting your little dance and you lost the shuffle, then now the whole school got to be concerned because it's going to escalate.
It's to gunfight.
But we as adults don't talk about, there's different pockets. Some of these kids are off the chain, as they say,
yes.
because there's something mentally
Going on
and
at
emotionally with them.
Yeah.
Some of these kids are on the wrong path. Not me, they're going to be bad kids, but they're on the wrong path because they're attracted to the thrill. Nobody wants to admit that.
That's
there's
true.
a thrill in the steal. It's like
Yes,
there's a thrill in the sneak.
Yeah.
You know. So, and then when you guys are setting up the crisis center, all of those things are removed from our community.
Yes, yes.
So you need the church to help put a consciousness for those who get the thrill out of steal.
That's right. That's right.
Because somebody have to instill in you that even though it feels good, it's not okay.
No, right, it's not good at all.
Okay, but that comes from a conscience.
That's
It
right.
comes from those above.
You know, sometimes we can get through to them. You know, tell our story. You know, and then you some of them you catch the ear, but it all leads back to no jobs. And
But
you
you're
know,
15, you don't need a job.
Right.
You're 12, you don't need a job.
They need
But that
structure.
crime starts from, you don't get 17 and can't find a
well,
job and say,
you know,
oh, I'm
it's
going to go
what
sell
they-
drugs.
Yeah,
what
go
they-
kill
it's what
somebody.
they-
Yeah, I'm going to go kill someone.
Right, it's
And
what
it
they
still
see.
goes back to what I felt I was taught. Because I'm hungry, I don't get to take your food.
Right.
Yeah, true.
You know, that goes, see, that's where, if churches were really churches, you learn that in the church. That, you know, even though there's a thrill in me stealing what you have, my conscience shouldn't allow me to do it. But we're not teaching that in the church. We're teaching that in the church. As a matter of fact, don't even get me started talking about these churches. Because if you don't go to this church and tied in this church, and then you have a crisis, you just Christ.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to help you. They're not going to reach out to you. There is no, you know, like back in the day, you call up and say, Sister Joey, the granddaughter is possessed by the demon, and then everybody hold hands and let's go pray for her. That minister is not going to go anywhere near that house if you don't have it tied and paid a dime into that church. So they're the one first got to get their conscience together before they can reach out and help these kids. But we're going to talk back here to the used to be criminal. You're the one who could reach these kids. What attracted you to the street? Besides, and don't tell me about the jobs.
Being in the streets.
You know, so right, there was a thrill of being in that street.
Well, I was
Then-
attracted to the street because my parents was real strict And I didn't meet those streets until I got 21 years old. I was out of the house. And it goes back to the parents once again. You have to raise your child. I mean, you can't be out here.
But they were strict. They were trying to raise you.
Yeah, but I waited till I got older.
But you know, my mom, you know, tell what people used to always say, "Oh, I wouldn't let her hang out with them." Like you said, they don't do the rap music in the house. My mom used to always instill in us or try to teach us as young children. Just because you go to or hang out a house of ill repute, that don't mean you have to be a prostitute. And that's why I'm so big on it. It all starts with self, because somebody had to instill. We have to empower our children about self. And when I was growing up, I had, especially being the quiet person, I can't believe I used to say quiet. I grew that one. But anyway, but being the quiet person, of course, you're always attracted to that bad element. I didn't ever become one of them, though.
Well, me, myself, I've been in the street since I was 12, 13. I didn't have to live the life I lived. You know, I was come up in a two-parent home. You know, my dad worked 30-some years. So it was like...
And you ended up in the street anyway.
Yes.
See, I'm telling you. See, now you got to speak your truth to power.
But then...
What attracted you there, what got you out? Because it ain't the crap. It ain't because you grew up with, you know, because he didn't have a father in his house. So what is that? You don't have a father in your house, or have nothing to do with you shooting me.
Right. Well, you know...
But you were still attracted to that thrill in that street.
You know, the rap, you know, the women,
the cool
the money,
boy.
yeah, you know, all that.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can change.
And then what started turning you around?
To be honest,
You woke up, I'm 40 and I didn't get shot, thank you God, let me get back.
No, well, me going to the penitentiary.
Oh, you went to the penitentiary. Okay, but see, that's good though.
You know,
I mean, not good that you went.
Right. It opened my eyes to a lot of things.
Yeah.
This was 91. I haven't been in any trouble since then. You know,
People always say that, especially men. Oh, I'm 47, I've never been in jail. Okay.
That's a blessing for right now. I mean, look at every brother that you meet, they have been to the penitentiary.
You know,
escaped it.
I'm not one of the ones that went through that sliding door. You know, you get out there.
But do you know, based on the path you took, is there anything that society, your parents, the school could have done to redirected you? Was there something they should have noticed?
No, because the school, it helped me, instilled me, but I still wanted the street life, which, you know, any of these young guys see. But now it's the thing with the videos. You know, you cannot, you know, make a nice video without, you know, someone, you know, calling this person out, calling this person. So that's where a lot of that.
They said the same thing. Who's not teaching young people that those rap videos are entertainment?
The artists.
But it's not. Why is it their responsibility to teach you that?
They basically want us to buy their CDs and they putting out not a positive, but it's not a positive.
But
thing
Denzel Washington did. What was that picture Denzel Washington did where they shot all the police up and everything? That wasn't positive, but that's still entertainment.
Yeah.
The media. It starts with the media.
They don't know the difference between real life and fiction.
Responsibility is to teach them that. Yeah. That starts back to the home and to the church.
Right.
Everybody who always got in trouble is always the most religious people. I guess because maybe that's what God came and talked to.
I mean, if you look at the Bible, Paul, he wasn't always saved. I mean, I figure God can use you when you least expect it, when you down and out, when you think that you don't have no one else there for you, the Lord will pull you up and rise you to any occasion. So it's not Obama, it's not the White House, it's not the Springfield, it's not. We have to instill the love of God back. Can I answer one more question? Mm-hmm. If we had the love of God in us, our children, it wouldn't be so much bodies out here in these streets these days. We have took the church and God out of the equation, period.
Okay, so
and that's why we have all
I'm
this.
going to give you that. Say that. I'm going to give you that. Because I know a whole lot of people sung in those cotton fields, and that's how they had the strength to make it through.
That's
but
correct.
with that being true, those who are leading the churches are supposed to be doing it because they had that calling, because God came and whispered something in their ear. So why aren't they out there?
Well, you got to look. I'm a young minister, but I don't fake the funk. I have my tattoos. Wait. No, it's not all a bad thing now. But in order for God to listen, in order for God to use you, you have to be able to walk that walk and talk that talk. Not only am I walking the walk and talking the talk, I'm making a difference in my community.
Yeah, so
that's where it started. I don't want you can ask my members, I don't even get paid for preaching. I don't want it. My pay is from God. My pay is from seeing a young man put down a gun and pick up the Bible and want to be like me. If I could, this is my young minister. He's only 22 years old. He's my assistant pastor.
And they converted you?
Yes.
To be a minister?
Yeah, so we have the power and the tools to do what we need to do. We just won't put it to use. Anyone can change.
How come all these ministers, I'm saying, if that's...
They got to check their call ID because everybody God called them, God didn't call them. You got these preachers going to school with theology degrees. I can talk like I got a degree, Plato, Socrates, but what good is that doing to my congregation? And Plato and Socrates ain't got nothing to do about my salvation. If a young child is out there in the street, he got a gun, and I walk up to him, I'd rather say, it's something that's bothering that child. Maybe a scripture can help that child along the way. If he came to me and say, what's the best scripture for me to put this gun down that you can give me? Let not your heart be troubled.
Listen.
That's the best scripture.
If it was that simple, I would pick up that Bible and go out there.
It is that simple. We haven't tried to enforce it. We tried to enforce everything. What good is to give a city a law or have guns, but I can't protect myself with it? In Florida, they got a gun violence saying, if I intimidate you, you can blow my head off. So we took God out of the equation, period.
You know what, but this is the thing. How does a young person, I would love to be able to go to the jail and talk to the young person who's gotten arrested for committing a crime. Not tape, not where he was incriminating himself. But how, like the young guy who they just arrested, Dominique, 23 years old.
Right.
How in the world do you know you took someone's life and then you go home and go to bed tonight?
They have no conscience.
Yeah, so how did we get there? How do you get 23 years old and it not bother you that you take it? Because when you shoot someone, especially murder them, you didn't just take that person's life. You've taken everyone in there.
That's involved in that, yes. Yeah.
And then, but you went home tonight and two things. You went home and went to bed, and somebody know you went home and went to bed. Because the one thing this is and I admire a lot of stuff that Father Flaker does and says.
Oh yes.
But one of the things that just gets under my skin about him is this no snitch rule that he says that's in the black community. Like I said, I'm not in the street, so I don't know about that.
Well, that's true.
But I am in there with those kids. And one thing I can promise you is somebody tells everything. So there is no one who has shot someone and nobody else knows about it but that person. Because the thrill is in the sneak. So if you took something out of his pocket and you don't tell anybody, you don't get the thrill. So if you were able to pickpocket him and he didn't know it, of course you're not going to tell him because he might have a gun in another pocket. But you're going to tell someone. Because the thrill is in doing it. So you have to share that's the same way. My young life, I came through the nightclub. The one thing I can promise you about somebody messing around in a nightclub, they don't do it secretly. The person, you have a happily married life and everybody, minister, you so happily married. But when you start messing around, you're bringing that extramarital relationship around your circle.
That's why you don't do it.
That's why you don't mess around and don't bring around your circle.
No, you don't do it, period. I mean...
but the thrill, you're doing it for the thrill.
You know what I do for the thrill?
What do you do for the thrill?
Helping a young man out that don't have a father, that don't have a role model. Jesse Jackson, we got all these black leaders in our community, they're not role models. Jesse Jackson didn't come down to 79th and Saginaw, but I bet you if some occur in Washington, he's there. He's there in Florida for the media hype. These preachers, they're not preaching the word of God anymore. They're preaching self-edification to glorify themselves. That's why religion is all messed up now. We've been the chosen ones 400 years ago, and it's not. See, we are. Let me tell you something. When I talk about religion,
dancing over there.
This happened 400 years ago. We was cursed when Israel disobeyed God. So he cursed us from generation to generation. When are we going to decide to break that curse? We're no longer in bonds and chains. Mary said, take the shackles off my feet so I can dance. I've been dancing for 2 whole years and I'm not going to stop.
Okay.
I don't care if these young gangbangers, I'm looking directly in the camera, blow me down as long as I'm out here doing God's will.
Make sure I'm not with
But you have to
I got that
stand
much
for something.
confidence in
If you
that
don't
Bible.
stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And that's what they want us to do.
We the ones that get out there in the trenches
Yes.
and talk to these.
Yes.
But the
young
thing is, you
kids.
have to start change the mindsets, though. And the thing, and you know, I like what your thing always say: one community at a time. Because I always say that in the school system, that you know, I'm trying to save and motivate one student, even if I have to do it one at a time.
Well, give us 100 jobs, and I guarantee
Yes.
you we'll fill
Yes.
each one of them.
Yes.
Okay, but anybody, if I know 100 jobs, I don't even know 100 people, but I can help you fill 100 jobs.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. So things need to be more vocal. That's why, you know, when the politicians start talking about everything, but then they skate stuff like that, the jobs, or one thing like you said, and like I say, you were industry. You're the best one to be able to go to Ron Emanuel or Governor Quinn and say the drugs come in our neighborhood this way.
Because they're supplying them.
You know,
They're supplying
so
them.
you can say that with conviction. See, the rest of us suspect that. Because you're not going to convince me or sell me on the argument. That's why I don't like McCarthy, you guys chief of police down there. That's why
No,
I
I
don't like
don't
him.
either.
Okay, because you're not going to convince me. And this is another thing too, and I respect Meeks, but this is what I don't like about him. You're not going to get on this TV and say that by 3rd and 4th grade, you can determine which one of these young kids are going to be the next criminal.
No.
Because,
Yeah.
listen, based on statistics and their level of reading and what you learned about once you go visit them in jail. So you're that wise that you could say this child at 3rd and 4th grade, because of his reading level, at 16 is going to be a criminal in the street. I'm going to give you that statistics. I'm going to give you that intellect. But you're not going to convince me that we're that wise as a society or as Americans. But you can't tell me how the drugs got on something like insane amount, or how he got the gun that he shot me with. You cannot have it both ways.
Okay.
You can't predict 20 years down who's going to be the next criminal, but you can't tell me 20 days ago how he ended up with the keloid or whatever the numbers are, or whatever that crap is, or you went in the house and they had a suitcase full of rifles. You cannot tell me that you could tell me about the 3rd grader, but you can't tell me about a 16-year-old with all these guns or all these drugs. Who go down to the Department of Motor Vehicles, you want to give them a driver's license because they didn't dot their I's and cross their T's. But they drove a vehicle with no license to go somewhere to get some guns that's illegal. You're not making sense. But it's going on. All of us educated people are sitting back and doing what?
Nothing.
I mean, except for the two of you guys. Now,
Nothing.
you guys are the rest of us are.
It's a team of us. It's
I
not
mean, I'm just saying, your group. It's a lot of people we've run out there that's doing it. But the thing is, as a society, because we can only save these children one child at a time.
One block at a time.
Right. And the thing is, and the kids are almost as much of a victim as they are the perpetrator.
You have a lot of them young kids that they don't want to be in that predicament, but you know, do they have a choice?
You know, yeah, the kid, okay, that's you guys' area, the little Dominique who just got arrested. So,
We've a little farther east.
I understand, but that's the area you work in, the streets you work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you know, if you don't know him per se, you know of him and you know his surroundings. And okay, so the first thing they say is that they were in a gang. Okay, he was in a gang. As if that makes it okay to have shot that lady. She wasn't in a gang.
Right.
So whoever you were shooting at, it's just doesn't. This is another thing too. When they get on TV, well, turn yourself in. What difference does it make whether you turn yourself in?
You still took a life.
You still took that life, but you going home and go to sleep. How are you going to go home and get in your bed and know you took that lady's life?
Well, a lot of times, when they do things like that, they be under the influence. They got this, synthetic drugs, and you know, and when they take it, they just overdo it. So a lot of times, you know, they might shot someone or took someone's life, but then when they go to sleep and wake up, they don't know what happened.
As if it didn't happen. So now what about while you're in the street, you know, you work with the people, you're trying to uplift them. Nobody ever talks about empowering the individual. You know, how, like this young man, some kind of way you done convinced him to turn to God.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you empower him?
Showed him the way. Like Jesus showed me the way, the straight narrow path, I showed him. I showed him destruction and a life of glory. It's up to him to choose now. I taught him the Bible. I taught him right from wrong. It's up to that individual. But thank God I did save him.
Okay.
You know, it ain't necessarily got to be jobs. If it was community centers or anything that would open their doors to give them another insight, another avenue from the street. You know, but then, you know, a lot of these places with all the
But you said about the
violence.
drugs. Now, if I'm on high and then I took a life out of anger or just because I was mentally not there, what about you guys are one group and you're going to try to open up a crisis center.
Mm-hmm.
But now you started the show off talking about our politicians. So where's the pressure on the politicians, the reality that you have to have a drug rehab center, you have to have an alcoholic center? What happened to the churches reaching out? The churches are just as afraid of these criminals and these kids as the non-religious.
I don't see why. I don't see why. They're human. God wasn't
This-
scared walking through the synagogue, so why should I be scared of man? Only person that I fear is God. Maybe if we get the fear of God back in us, we'll do much better. And as far as the gangs in the community, you can say this too. Back when we was gang banging, I'm a Blackstone, he a Vice Lord, retired, but now you have different cliques now. It's not about Blackstone or Gangster or GD. You from Lakeside, I'm from Tarrytown, we grew up together. I don't like you because you moved to the opposite side. You know, that's due back to the government tearing down these projects and scattering people.
And then killing the value of community. Because you know what, this guy named Lewis, I'm not sure what his name, he was running for Jesse Jackson's seat against Robin Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so, you know, following his some of his debates and stuff, one of the things that he would, you know, constantly say, you know, about the gangs in the street, the crime in the street will never stop until our politicians are no longer the beneficiary of it.
They're the biggest gangsters.
And then I'm not quite from the street, so of course I don't understand exactly what he's saying. I know there's like a cryptic message he's putting out there that until our politicians are no longer the beneficiary. Because I don't think our politicians are out there like, okay, put these drugs in the black neighborhood, we're not going to say.
Well, they did it to the Black Panther Party, why not? We don't own boats, we don't own planes to bring that from overseas.
And that's
The
what I'm
government
saying. And
do.
you're trying
They
to
know
tell
what
us
comes
that the black teenager can't read, but at the same token, they can get all this.
And that's
drugs.
true, because you can go on Facebook, which is, you see little kids and their parents on there filming them twerking at 2 years old. And you know, I'm a type of person, I'll twerk them back and say, can this person read? You know, you would rather have your son or daughter doing all this crazy stuff other than occupying their time with a book.
Both. No,
I wouldn't have my daughter on TV 2 years old with a little guy behind him twerking. No, that's advertising sex.
Yeah.
And that's what the media do. If we could control the media, we can control the problem. That's to my solution. What about you?
I think the worst thing we had to worry about was
I'm gonna keep saying
the worst
jobs.
thing we had to worry about them twerking. I would twerk. I say twerk on.
Well, they have took it
Because
to
our
another
kids
level.
need to have more enjoyment. They need to. I still go back with we need to empower them. You need to believe in yourself. You need to have strength in yourself. You need to have confidence in yourself. We need to have resources as a society. I feel us as older people, if someone come to you or come up to you, and then even if they don't say they're strung out on something, now you're from the street, so you know.
Mhm.
Yes.
So we need to have the resources. How do we get this person's help? Because the one thing we all know, and I'm not even from the street, but if we don't get this person some help, it's going to be a societal problem.
Right.
So at one time you used to say, okay, well, I'm going to take you to church with me on Sunday and we'll talk to my pastor. You're not going to do that because you barely can talk to your pastor. And he's certainly not going to take out time on Sunday and sit down and talk to this young man who's going in the wrong direction.
Well, you remember back in our day, church doors used to be open 7 days a week.
You
You
know?
know, they done took the church and turned it to a den of thieves, and they turned it into a one big politician.
Oh, that's what I'm going to say about that guy Lewis, what he always said. He says one of the problems in the street is that back when he was in the street in his crowd, that there is honor among thieves.
Yeah.
That there's rules and there's street rules, and you know, a person from the West Side gang wasn't going to come and even accidentally shoot somebody on the South Side in your territory, because then they wasn't going to allow the heat to now get on that South Side gang. It's just, he just said there's just no rules, no respect,
No honor.
no, right. So no, and I'm not necessarily, and I keep debating, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Crime is crime,
Yeah.
but then it's not, because now we have all.
Right now is a bad thing, because now a lot of these cliques or organizations, they feel like they don't have anyone that they have to
Answer to.
So here it is, they, what would you call them, outlaws?
By none.
How do you used to know the street rules? If you're in a gang, like you said, you're in opposite gang, so how did you guys each know the rule? You didn't have a gang meeting and say, okay, this
Well,
is...
like I say, it wasn't a gang, it was an organization.
Right.
You know, it was all made to help the community.
So,
That's how
based on your work in the street, are the crimes and things that we're experiencing, are these now actual gang members or just young people going wild?
young people going wild, cliques. You know, they just trying to get a rep. And, you know,
How much is it still related to drugs?
The ecstasy is a new pill that, from what I hear, it calls whatever mood you in. If you're enraged and you pop this pill, you're going to want to kill somebody.
So how are you on drugs, or how is a young person like this young guy, how would he be on drugs and those in his immediate surrounding not know it?
Oh, you would know.
Okay, so then where is the help from all of the adults that's in your surroundings?
That's where we come in as a community, and because the adults, 9 times out of 10, is on drugs. You know,
So it's like a domino.
it's like an epidemic.
right, how you gonna tell your son, you know, to not do this, not do that, and then you know, they seeing what you doing.
That's because we party with our children now, you know, so.
Okay,
And
so
I'm
this
still,
is
I'm
big.
still on that old rule. You know, I have a daughter 18 and a son 15 and a son 8. You know, they said that you should not, you know, chastise your kids, but, you know, I'd rather...
But you have to chastise your kids. How you going to teach them right
Right,
and wrong?
and then that's what went wrong. See, now,
No, they say you should not hit your children, not chastise them.
well,
How you going to teach them right from wrong if you don't chastise them?
exactly. But, you
Yeah,
know,
but
if
you
you...
don't have to hit them with a belt or a switch.
No, but if you chastise them the wrong way, then you find yourself, you know...
But you're a
like that.
chastise, you just don't have to physically hit them.
Well, you know...
Well, I'll put it to you like this. I'm a black man. Time out doesn't work for me.
Right, and
That
then...
belt used to work for me.
And then if they know that they have that advantage where they don't have to listen to you, they can always just pick up the phone
Right.
and, you know, just say, and here it is, you hold off. But like I say, it's either you chastise them now or bury them or,
But you keep saying chastise. You can chastise your children without physically hitting them. There's a lot of ways.
Well, these days of time, you can't really talk to your children without them bucking up at you. I'm from the old school. You
But
buck
they
up.
have to hurt them. But I'm
Right.
just saying, but you could chastise your children.
there's a lot of parents out here scared of their kids.
That's right.
You know,
But
scared.
it's got all kind of problems.
Yes.
You're afraid of the child, the mouth you feed?
I mean, it's,
We're not, but you know, that's what society wants us to be. You know, we
Right.
can't touch our children. You know.
So we're going to go back to my theory,
Okay.
as you guys are out there. My theory is, how do we empower? I just think it's not even your theory, but you obviously have done that. You empower a young guy in his 20s, barely in his 20s, to, because that's a double thing. It's one thing to empower or to direct him to do the right thing, but you've also empowered him to embrace a religion,
Yes.
which is a whole nother challenge in itself. Just getting a young person to do the right thing is huge.
Yes.
But then to get a person to openly say, and I'm a child of God, or whatever the heck you tell them to say. You know, that's, I mean, so whatever that message is. So that's like you've given him 2 levels of strength.
I didn't give it to
Or
him.
whoever gave
God gave it to him. I just introduced him to it.
Yeah.
You know, like just like you get introduced to driving a car.
Somebody had to teach you how to drive a car. You don't get introduced to driving a car.
Right. Well, I learned on my own.
Yeah, I know, but that's you. A trillion of people, somebody has to teach you.
But either or, we decide what way we want to go, even though we have to sometimes run into that brick wall.
It's not that simple. Because
To
you
me
know,
it is.
that's I'm telling. I'm in the school with these kids. You know how many kids make the wrong decision, do the wrong thing,
Peer
but
pressure.
which they wouldn't have, or if I could do it again, I wouldn't do it, or
And some of them will do it again.
yeah, and there's some of them who sometimes end up gravitating towards you, towards myself, or people like myself, because you're that voice of reason, that itch and that scratch is to do the right thing, but then this person is the voice of reason, so then they end up gravitating, and they don't even realize it themselves. You know, because sometimes they'll say, "Oh wow, you are so popular with these kids." And I just always say because it's the gray hair, but I also, but I know the real reason is because we have those two voices, so your voice is leading you this way. But once you encounter somebody like myself, we're the voice of reason. So therefore, you will come over to us and tell us you're going to do the wrong thing because you want us to give power to the voice that knows they're not supposed to do it. And so when you don't have that voice of reason, then you lean towards that street and your peers. And all those kids are not on drugs. They're just attracted to the thrill and don't realize it. They're kids. They don't know. You know, why they're in the street or why they're doing the wrong thing. And then once you're out there, I'm telling you, it just ends up taking a life of its own. Because there's a thrill of sneaking out your parents' house and hanging out with the bad kids. You know?
That's because when you know it was a thrill and there's no consequences behind it, it wasn't a thrill for me to sneak out because I didn't want to get that strap put to me. And that's, I'm just being for real. We can say everything that we want to say.
But it didn't matter. You ended up on the street anyway.
I was grown. I made that
I
choice.
know, that's what I'm saying. So you still with that solid foundation. I'm telling you, the best testament.
Yeah.
With a solid foundation, with two, as a matter of fact, you're my poster child. Make sure I take your picture. With that solid foundation, with that father in the household, you still was attracted to the influence in that street.
Because I was sheltered.
Well, that's how you justify it.
Right, no, but look, I came back to my raising though.
I know, because you heard that voice and you think it was God.
And sometimes, you know, you just gotta choose, you know, Apostle Paul before he became
But
Apostle Paul, his name was Saul.
Into the young person though.
We gotta give him concrete proof of everything that goes on in our surrounding. You know, most guys like the Chicago Police Department, they want to jump on us because we have dreads. Or locks, whatever you want to call them, but it's deeper than the dreads. I have dreads because it's an empowerment to me, because my people had dreads. I'm not talking about the Israelites. I'm going back 400 years past that, the Egyptians.
And then it helps too, though, because if you're walking the street, that young person
Keep the
that's
guns
in the
off me
street-
too.
Yeah, right. it has its role in society, especially with what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you walk in the street, they're assuming you're one of them, or if you're not one of them, you know what they know.
Yeah.
And so they're not as likely as to, he's more of a threat, because they say, they going to think he's the quiet boy and not you.
Right.
And then you the one going to pull out the Bible.
Yeah.
He going to pull out the gun, you going to pull out the Bible.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to be the runner's run.
I don't want to shake their hands. He the one, you know,
Right.
speak the peace.
And I'm sure that catches them off guard. You're like, brother, you really shouldn't be to that. And then he said, let's pray. You know.
Well, you know, we reaching out to a lot of the youngsters. We also have a youth division. We have a chapter in Danville, Illinois, and a chapter in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
And I mean, before the time is up, because I would talk all about what I think. Tell again your organization, what it is you want the public to know. Is there contact phone numbers? How can people reach out and help? You know, tell him he's having a seance for all ministers.
Oh no!
Go on, you tell your story.
Again, my name is Dante Wolf Wilson. You can find me on Facebook as that. I can be reached at 708-705-1478. Again, we cater to the community. We enlighten the youngsters. We visit nursing homes that give the elderly hope. Just a lot of different things, whatever we can do to, you know, lend a hand to, you know, make this, you know, a better place.
So that's cool. They're trying to get them between the cradle and the cradle. you know, in the grave. So try to reach those young bodies and those young minds in the middle.
Yes.
And you can see him at church somewhere, but
Yeah, First Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church, 1816 East 79th Street. Our service is at 11:30 to 1. But I'm co-CEO of Notarized Inc. And basically everything that our CEO said is to be true. We're trying to get a crisis intervention center for our youth. We're trying to open up shelters, but it's kind of hard when we don't have the support of our communities and our fellow constituents. So that doesn't mean that we're going to stop. That means our fight is a little bit harder, and we're going to continue to push on.
now what type of job readiness skills do you guys? Do you have organizations? Do you have mentors that help teach the people to trade? Because that's another thing about that Lupe Felipe. He does that. In the summer, he takes and buys up houses, in Chicago or wherever he buys them. And then he has other contractors come out and pass down the trade to somebody showing you how to do drywall or electricity.
We have a member, AJ. He's a part of Target 79th and Ashland, and he has an outlet where he can give youth, jobs. But it's a organization that you have to been locked up or going through some type of.
So like a second chance program.
Yes.
Okay. Now you know what? Now you're trying to do the community center and the crisis. So have you spoken to the different aldermen? Because with all the
I'm actually supposed to meet with the aldermen next week.
Okay, because with all the vacant and boarded up houses out there, it seems like you should be able to
They'd rather have
house a bunch of
somebody
homeless people.
we'd just rather have somebody sitting in there when our children walk past, they snatch them
Snatch
in
them
and
up,
rape
yeah.
them. So
Yeah.
basically that's what we're trying to do.
See, that's another pet peeve of mine. Because they went through this whole thing about, okay, now we're going to, because of that, we're going to get rid of the boarded up houses in the community, but then they're tearing them down.
And vacant
All
lots.
these homeless people and all these people who don't have decent housing, why would you tear down a solid brick structure?
They don't care. We have homeless
That's why
people
they
that
do.
stays in front of City Hall. And that's bad. Our mayor goes into City Hall and there's homeless people right there in front. What is he doing?
I forget what state it was, but they are now barring, they bar you from feeding the homeless. I want to say California, but I'm not sure. And I was just,
But how can they tell a person in a free society what to do? Oh, they mean like as an organized group.
Well, as far as with the homeless, they don't have anywhere to go but on the street. So, of course, if you're hungry, you're going to speak up. Closed mouths don't get fed. But, they want to, if you feed them, they want to crucify you. And, that's not right.
But, there's so many problems out here. We got the homeless, we got the drug addicts, we got the drug dealers, and then we got these guns on the street.
Put down your guns.
And
Yeah.
pray.
And then we got the prayers. That's a different show now. You gonna talk about we know how you gonna talk about that praying stuff. Because if that made all the difference, I promise you, we would be way on
But
time.
we got to pray with a sincere and clean heart. We can't just pray, say, God, give me a gold Rolls Royce. That's not in the decks right now.
So if there's a young person out there and they're on the fence and they want to turn their life around, what do you have to say to them?
It's not hard. It can be done. And, you just have to keep the faith and, do what your strongest strengths are. If it's anything that you're having a problem with, there's always someone out here that you can talk to.
And give them your
And
number.
even if so, you can reach me at 773-314-6515. I have a 24-hour policy. That number again is 773-314-6515. I'm Big D.
And I'm Wolf.
Okay, give your number again.
708-705-1478.
Okay.
And, if you would like to come out on a crusade with us, so be it. Our doors is always open. So come on and see us.
And this is me, Miss Rhonda B. Miss Mary has given us the wrap it up sign back there. I want to thank you guys for joining us and
Thank you.
listening. I
Thank
really
you.
thank you guys for coming out and putting up with my jibing because mostly I'm just messing with you.
Thanks for having
Because
us.
anyone who's out there giving a voice to the community, I promise you go high on my list.
Thank you.
Because we need every voice from every reason. And I'm really glad that I met you, because I'm always saying, why aren't the people who once walked those streets the one out now talking to the people? Because even though I'm still, even that's real honest, the fact that you even admitted it, even though I was suspect with all these tattoos anyway. but the fact that you admitted it, and so therefore that means that you're not walking in shame. When you're running out there and meeting a young person and they're like, get out my face, you don't know I'm going through, you don't know what I'm going through. See, when they tell me that, in all honesty, in my heart, whatever I can do, I will help you. But when they tell you to get out their face, you don't know what they're going through, you immediately, like, bag them up, Joe. Been there, done that, and you got an
Right.
and the same with you. So you can hear their story, listen to their voice, and offer them direction other than just theory. So I thought
We have a lot of them that's crying out.
yeah. And
Yes.
so, and then I hope you guys get empowered.
Hope so.
Okay.
Well, we out here on the struggle every day. We're not being funded. This is something that we do, amongst our members. So, if anybody out there would like to sponsor us, 708-705-1478.
Okay. And I thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you.